Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with the review of the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G in the beautiful hue yellow, or better said Cytrus Yellow. This is a 5G mid-range phone, one of the slimmest I've ever tested and also rather compact for 2021. And also it has a camera design similar to the Xiaomi Mi 11 and the price is just about right at $400. It was launched recently, about a month and a half ago, and it's got quite a few things going for it, including stereo speakers and Wi-Fi 6 plus fast charging. Now, aside from this hue you can see here, which is called Citrus Yellow, there's mint green and truffle black. And believe it or not, we have glass at the back, glass at the front, and there's a plastic frame in between. We have a power button here with the fingerprint scanner embedded, and the volume buttons are here. Now I have to say that the handset itself is quite comfortable in the hand, even though it's a bit wider than I'm used to. Nowadays phones tend to be narrow and long. This is not exactly hugely long, but it's a bit wider than usual. The bezels would appear thick if you haven't seen a Galaxy A phone recently, so at least they're symmetrical here. The build is quite okay in my view. I'm digging this approach with a glossy frame and I would say not so glossy backside, which hides the fingerprints pretty well. I'm also excited that we have IP53 certification. IP53 means dust and splash proofing. The thickness is just 6.8 millimeters and the weight is just 159 grams. It's one of the best designs I've seen all year for a mid-range phone, definitely. Now the screen we're dealing with here is an AMOLED, so this was to be expected. There are plenty of AMOLEDs on mid-rangers nowadays. 6.55 inch Full HD+, 90Hz refresh rate and HDR10 Plus support plus Gorilla Glass 6. And I'm going to put it to the test right about now. Here we go. Now we do have a punch hole here for the selfie camera, but it doesn't bother us, doesn't spoil the immersiveness. And this is one of the best screens I've seen recently. I'm talking about vivid colors, I'm also talking about very high brightness and a fantastic contrast even in the full strong sunlight of a pre-summer, so to say. Wide view angles. So there's actually nothing to complain about here. I'm totally excited and I'm enjoying this display. I also done a few tests here and I would have to mention that the pixels have a pentile matrix arrangement, and when it comes to brightness, check this out, it's placed on the 10th spot. I've tested something like 400 phones and this came in 10th, which is quite a compliment. It's beating even flagships like even the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra and the Huawei Mate 40 Pro and the predecessor Mi 10 Lite 5G. It scores below the OnePlus 8T, OnePlus 9 and Mi 10 Pro, but those are all flagships, so in its own league it's excellent when it comes to brightness. Now if you want to talk about the innards of the phone, you're going to have to start with the processor, which in this case is the brand new Snapdragon 780G. It's actually the first phone with this CPU that we've ever tested, and it's a 5nm CPU, which is something rare in the world of mid-rangers. It's octa-core and it's accompanied in this case, let's see, by 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage, plus UFS 2.2 in case you want to know, and also we have a microSD card slot. Obviously a 5nm CPU means there will definitely be no trace of lag here, and indeed there was nothing like that. You can easily run games, perform updates, have a bunch of apps open, quite a few apps open, and there will be zero lag for at least 1 or 2 years. We also did a bunch of benchmarks and let's see what those showed us. So I'm going to start off with Antutu 8. This is the result we achieved. 458k points, just above Huawei P40 Pro and above the Galaxy Fold and iPhone SE 2020, which are pretty solid results. We scored below the Poco X3 Pro and the Galaxy S10 Lite and Galaxy S20 Fan Edition 5G. We also have Geekbench 5 here with a multi-core subtest just above the Galaxy S20, Note 20 Ultra 5G, which is a bit of a shocker for me, so definitely this is a mid-range phone which can beat or equal past year flagships. That's the conclusion I'm drawing. Its biggest rivals are its mates from Xiaomi as well, the Poco X3 Pro, maybe the Poco F3 and things like that, and the Moto G100. Basically it's just above Snapdragon 865 on some phones and just below Snapdragon 870 on other phones. When it comes to the GPU, here we are. This is the result we achieve, above the Poco X3 Pro, Galaxy S10 Lite, Huawei P40 Pro. I would say we're doing quite fine. This is the rule. that you're getting a mid-range phone 1 year, which beats the flagships of the past year, and it's a nice rule to see. Now you're wondering if all this performance and especially this slim body may lead to overheating on account of usually when a lot of glass panels mix with a powerful CPU, you may see overheating. Here you can only see 38.7 degrees Celsius in benchmarks, so doesn't cause any serious heat. And let's actually go here, and in games 34.1 degrees, so definitely no overheating in this case. We're done with that, so let's talk about the battery. Now when it comes to the battery, this slim phone has a 4250 mAh battery. It would have like 5000, but definitely the thickness would have increased. It charges at 33 watts, and let's see what it delivered us. So this battery saw us getting 16 hours and 5 minutes of video playback, which is actually not bad. It beats the Motorola Moto G 5G Plus, the Oppo Find X2 and the Xiaomi Mi 10T. Scores below the Poco F3 and the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 4G, which we are also testing these days, and below the Galaxy S20 Fan Edition 5G. A more relevant test is the continuous usage one, which is actually better here, 14 hours and 16 minutes. It's beating a battery phone like the Zenfone Max Pro M2. More relevant, it's beating the Xiaomi Mi 10T, the OnePlus 8T, which is actually a heavy hitter when it comes to the battery, and the Oppo Reno 5 5G. It stays below the Realme 8 5G, and the Motorola Edge and the Moto G 5G. When it comes to the charging, at 100%, you can achieve that in 59 minutes, which is actually not bad. And after merely 30 minutes, you're at 64%. So you should be ready to go for 1 day of work, if not more. And then there are the battery saving features, which are battery saver, ultra battery saver, and there's also a special auto optimization feature here and there. Okay, now aside from that, I think it's time to talk about the speakers. We have one at the bottom here next to the USB-C, and then we have the one at the top, which is the earpiece. Some Xiaomi phones have their speakers here. This one has it in the earpiece. Now, we don't have an audio jack. You can clearly spot that, but we do have a bundled dongle, which converts from USB-C to 3.5mm jack. The music sounds something like this. Okay, a bunch of conclusions. The device vibrates a lot when you're listening to music, and if it's the top volume, you may hear some distortion, especially with guitar solos. The bottom speaker is more powerful than the top speaker. There is not much bass here. However, at 60% the sound can deliver if you're at 60% volume, and I'm definitely happy with the high notes and the voices. Those really shine. But the bass, once again, not so much. And at the same time, the difference between the speakers is there. We have a bunch of tests here with a decibel meter. We're using an acoustic sample, and we measured 87 decibels at the bottom, and let's see, 78.3 decibels at the top. Almost 10 decibels difference. Is definitely clear that the bottom speaker is more powerful. This one actually beat the Huawei P40 Pro Plus and the Realme 8 Pro, but it's called below the Motorola Moto G30 and OnePlus Nord. These are acoustic sample tests. These are gaming tests, which are a bit more underwhelming. 93 decibels, 93.2 actually. We're accustomed to 100 decibels, so expected a bit more. We're maybe beating Xperia 5 Mark II and Xiaomi Mi 10 Ultra, but we're scoring below the Realme 8 Pro and Galaxy A41. So in reality it sounds okay, but it's definitely no record breaker. On the camera front, you can see here in a punch hole a 20 megapixel selfie camera, the same one from the Xiaomi Mi 11. It doesn't have autofocus, and at the back side the camera module design is similar to the Mi 11, but we don't have a 108 megapixel main camera. This triple cam setup has the core 64 megapixel camera, f1.8 aperture, a Samsung GW3 sensor. It combines 4 pixels in one. Then we have an ultra-wide 8 megapixel camera and a 5 megapixel tele macro camera, accompanied by an LED flash. There's also 4K video capture. There are AI features. There are movie effects, dual video, pro photo and pro video, and so much more, but I won't insist on that. You have the unboxing where we focused on that aspect. This is the gallery, and we have quite a few shots here. This is the camera section. I caught a day, actually 2 days, where we mixed the clouds and sun, and one was totally sunny. These are actually shots taken in the subway. There's a new subway station in Bucharest, inaugurated about 1 year ago, and actually took photos of its architecture. Now indoors, the phone can really handle itself. There is some noise here and there, but I'm actually happy with the results we were able to achieve. Once again, it's a mid-range phone, and this is what is mistaken for mid-range these days. It's actually a solid set of pictures, except for the fact if you try to zoom in, you may notice some noise here and there. One thing that definitely happens here is that the colors are very bright and vivid, perhaps too much so, which is especially present on the ultra-wide camera, regular shot, ultra-wide shot, and of course some loss of details. It's 8 megapixels after all for the ultra-wide. A good thing is that even with the sun in front of us, there are no aberrations or distortions or problems like that. We have several more shots here, which are actually not that bad. But one thing is constant: the vegetation, the green, becomes a bit too intense for my liking if the sun is really shining. I also have a bunch of selfies here. Some of them have beautify applied, which I try to deactivate. And these are some of the more relevant ones. This is baby skin, so definitely a beauty filter happening. While this one probably also has it applied. I really like to see the pores applied here, and maybe this one doesn't. I can definitely see the pores better. So I mean, the face has its normal expression, the focus is okay, even if it's fixed focus, details are fine, and the color is also okay. This is a bokeh, which cuts me from the background in a pretty nice fashion. Usually some threads of hair will get lost in the cutout. This is day 1, and this is day 2, where it was cloudier, so there will be less overexposure and less vivid colors, even though still pretty vivid. Okay, so this is Tiger, you know him from the cartoons, and we actually used it for the sake of some, bokeh shots like these ones here. It's definitely cut excellently compared to the background, and I actually used this bulb to take some macro shots with pretty impressive results. This is a small metallic ornament, or a screw basically. This is the actual distance and the size of the object. It's like this, it's that small, and thanks to the macro we actually made it seem huge and got a lot of texture out of it. Now the gallery is much bigger than this. We have some excellent landscape shots. This definitely requires ultra wide and a zoom test. The zoom is underwhelming. On this small screen it looks okay. On a big PC or TV doesn't look that impressive. Some more landscape shots. You can definitely tell that the normal wide is, I would say, decently lit, but the ultra wide one gets a bit darker and messes up the exposure. Okay, I had to see this nose here for the Tiger, and I did a macro to show its the way it has been used by time and by the kids. So if you're gunning for close-ups, you should be happy with this phone, and the bokehs also made me reasonably happy. However, I will remind you that the predecessor was also quite fine in most camera areas. More shots of flowers. Every now and then there will be a hit and miss when it comes to the focus, but in general I was quite happy with the colors, the details of everything we captured. My only problem here is that we don't have many details for the ultra wide, and that the green vegetation is sometimes too green, too intense. It needs to be toned down a little bit. And these are the daytime shots. Now we're switching off to the low light shots, and we're changing city so we can properly see them. First thing I noticed is that they're a bit darker. I'm coming off the review of the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra with an excellent level of brightness, and to be honest, this one doesn't exactly impress. I'm accustomed to actually seeing the entrance of the bar and its logo, the drunken rat, and here it doesn't happen that much. So not a lot of light being captured here, but you can definitely fix that with the night mode. And this is definitely an ultra wide shot, making things even darker. I'm guessing this is one example of night mode, so this is without it, and this is with it, where things get a bit more visible, particularly in the finer details. Overall, I'm not that impressed. I mean, I think I've seen better phones during the night time. At least it keeps the colors in check, even though in the later part of the gallery, you may notice there are some reds and oranges being thrown around here and there. I would say a decent size for the lights. They're not overblown or made to look too small, and a decent way of handling the light sources here without overblowing them too much. Okay, so this is a brighter shot, this is a darker shot, and as I said before, night mode makes things appear better. But in general, the first part of the gallery was quite dark compared to my expectations. Okay, now when everything's said and done, it's quite okay for a $400 phone. And when it comes to the videos, we have them all here, 16 of them, and let's see what we've got. So the most relevant are obviously the ones that involve stabilization. Actually have 3 or 4 of them, and I'm not exactly impressed. There's a bit of trepidation and vibration going on here. I took this video without the steady mode activated, and it's definitely not an impressive stabilization. We don't have OIS, but the EIS should be nowadays pretty high performing. And this is the second video with the steady mode on. Still doesn't get rid of vibration. I mean, it makes things a bit more cursive, but you can tell that the image is flowing, it's moving, it's vibrating with every step I take. Now if you want to see colors, this is it. And once again, they're too overblown for my taste. They're too intense on account of the sun and the exposure. Some people dig that, some people enjoy that. This is a 4K video with a lot of details, so there's that. If you want details and clarity, you should be happy. The zoom is, let's say, decent, but the colors are way too intense, and the zoom properly, and it triggers the noise pretty fast. This is a selfie video. I would call it just okay. I'm reminding myself of the Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite from last year, and it actually took similar videos and photos. As an overall, the camera from last year can still hold its own. That's one thing you should remember. And this is a focus test on the foreground and the background. Decent speed of alternating between the 2 frames. This is a dual shot photo camera, front camera and back camera at the same time, and we have quite a few more here, including these intense colors. So if you desire some clarity and details, this is the camera for you, but be advised, the colors will definitely be very intense. Luckily, we have a pro video mode which can solve some of the aspects. And these were daytime videos. Let's see the low light video. As usual, this is a high challenge for any phone. This one has a pretty strong orange hue. I mean, the clarity is okay. The brightness is sufficient, but if you start to walk around, there will definitely be some vibration and trepidation, not the best stabilization in the world. I was very impressed by the predecessor's camera, the Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite 5G, and this one is, I would say, a pretty small bump. Even though the pictures and videos look well, they're not a huge generation gap or huge generation jump. Something like 10 or 15%. The average user won't feel it as much as the pro user. On the connectivity front, the phone delivers quite a few goodies, and I do mean that. I'm going to start with the infrared emitter at the top. There's even Wi-Fi 6, which on a on a mid-range phone is quite shocking. So Wi-Fi 6, 5G, Bluetooth 5.2, USB-C 2.0 at the bottom as a port. There's infrared, as I said before. There's even NFC for payments, GPS dual band, GLONASS in Galileo. The calls were pretty loud and clear. And we also have screenshots of the app called Speed Test, which we rely on to test our 4G and Wi-Fi 6 speeds. As you can see, we went crazy here. We went past 700 megapers in download on Wi-Fi and 650 upload megapers, and on 4G it was 257 over 54.3 in download and upload respectively. So I would say we're doing quite fine as far as connectivity is concerned. I won't talk about the software too much. It's actually MIUI 12 on top of Android 11. If you've seen any review over the past 6 or 7 months, you know exactly what to expect. For the sake of security, you have here the fingerprint scanner in the button on the side. It is quite snappy and efficient for unlocking the device. We also have always on display, which is customizable, and you can see it in action right now. Aside from that, we have face unlock, but it's only 2D, not 3D. And as usual, for a Xiaomi phone, we have 2 columns for multitasking in the recents department. And also, as usual, you can opt for these quick settings and notifications, or you can split them with a control center that's triggered in a similar fashion to the iPhone one. Swipe right from this corner, control center, swipe left from the left side, and you got the notifications. Not a big fan of that, but some of you may be. Let's see what else. We have those beautiful super wallpapers, which are so famous nowadays, the super wallpapers from here. Geometry, faraway rings, home, the red planet. Basically, the idea is that you're zooming in from the orbit to the core of a planet. That's pretty much it. We also have an app drawer, which can be split either in categories, communication, entertainment, photography, tools, or shopping, or you can split it in an alphabetical order and go through it vertically. Okay, and then we have the settings with quite a few options for the screen, always on display, sound and vibration. There's even a special haptic feedback meter here, believe it or not. Have home screen options, password and security, privacy protection. You can remove the metadata from the things you share, especially the photos. Digital well-being and special features. Here you can find game turbo, video toolbox, floating windows, and a second space, to name just a few. Among the pre-installed apps, the one that comes to mind first is Teams maybe, and also security. This is your one-stop shop for the well-being of the device. It's got a resource cleaner, a security scanner for malware, speed boost, battery management, and dual apps. So you can have 2 accounts, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, judging by the icons here. Facebook cleaner, second space, game turbo, and so much more optimization tools. I think I'm about done with the review. I remind you who you're talking to here. It's gsm1.com, and this has been the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G. So on the pro side, definitely the design. I fell in love with this hue. It's a very slim, comfy, and light phone with an excellently lit screen, an AMOLED panel which is very bright, crisp, and vividly colored. It's a high-performing phone, as shown to you by me with the benchmarks we mentioned before. This CPU is really powerful. Aside from that, the battery is satisfying in both battery life and charging speed. The connectivity is quite fast, and the pictures and videos are okay for a $400 phone. I'm also happy with the sound here. I have the stereo speakers, and MIUI is, I would say, MIUI 12 is quite an achievement. I'm waiting for MIUI 12.5. Now on the cons side, there are also cons, not just pros. The colors of the photos I've taken and also the videos are a bit too intense for my liking, especially when it comes to vegetation. The ultra-wide shots don't have many details. The bottom speaker is lacking some bass. The stabilization is underwhelming even for electronic one. And I would say that overall, as a package, as an optical camera package, front and back, is not a huge jump from the past year model. Go ahead and look at the galleries we've taken last year and see if you can spot the differences or not. In the end, this phone is, I would say, made popular by its, well, good looks. Definitely looks nice, it's compact, it's slim, it has an excellent screen, while its benchmarks show that it can beat 2020 flagships. So this should be enough to buy it. The camera may cause some hesitation. It looks like the Mi 11 one, but it doesn't raise to the level of the Mi 11. It's more like the Mi 10 Lite from last year plus a 10%, maybe 15. So that's the core you're getting here. A very high performing CPU, top 10 screen, excellent body, but the camera is for the average user close to the last year performance, maybe with some small extras. This is it from gsm1.com. Hope you enjoyed the review of the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G. Bye bye.